Welcome to a special edition of Under Construction. I'm Rodney.
I'm Jamal.
Brother Kaza Sose.
What's up, y'all?
And to the right of me is Brother Jamal, the Angry Black Friend Darby. How you guys doing this evening?
Man, I'm awesome. What's going on, Mr. Rodney? Kaza?
I'm here, man. It's been an interesting 24 to 48 hours.
To say the least.
The group of people is going to get some work. I ain't gonna say they are.
Oh, man. Yeah, so
know that I am very petty. And,
so you'll be in Facebook jail, you're saying?
Wait 4 years to give them this work.
Petty power activate. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. The reason why we have a special show today is we recently partnered with the front office insiders, and we've been given a task. So we've been given the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Charlotte Hornets, and we're tasked to move these, kind of nudge these teams along into the right direction. And this is an interesting. This will be an interesting exercise. OKC is just coming off a playoff berth, a surprise playoff berth. Right now, they don't have a coach. Billy Donovan is now in Chicago. Guys, who are some of the head coaching candidates that you may be interested in the position for OKC?
Well, you might as well bring up all the retreads that never won anything that the Hornets can. So we got your usual suspects there, but I've been a huge fan of Fizdale. What he did a few years ago with Memphis, he doesn't get enough credit for that. He took a team that really wasn't supposed to win anything and made them a competitive playoff team in the Western Conference. I mean, that team wasn't as they had a lot of talent on the roster, but no real superstar talent. And I know that they didn't win the playoff series in the West, but to even make it and be competitive says a lot. That was one of the guys I wanted in Charlotte. And of course he goes to the Knicks because
why?
Yeah, it's New York, big time in.
Yeah. Wait. Make sure you're clear about something. He turned down the Charlotte Hornets job to take the New York Knicks job. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if he regrets that decision. Looking at the direction of those two teams. But I think him going back to the Western Conference, OKC, they actually have we'll talk about this a little bit more, but they actually have a lot of talent on their roster. It's a pretty good roster. It's going to have a little bit of turnover, but they've got some young guys I think that he could do well with, considering they were playoff teams somehow last season. Fizdale would be my pick.
Jamal, so who would be your pick?
I'm probably the first name that comes to mind is Kenny Atkinson, man, and because I really thought he got a real raw deal in Brooklyn. I just don't see, to this day, I still don't see a reason why they gave up on Kenny Atkinson so soon, man. He had a roster that was depleted with injuries, got the very best out of those guys, and to my knowledge and to the reports I've seen, everything was well in the locker room. So again, man, it's just hard for me to come up with a reason why he's still not with the Brooklyn Nets, unless they were just hell-bent on just simply making a splash, and whether that splash makes sense or not. Kenny Atkinson has had a big hand in player development. He's had a big hand in Spencer Dinwiddie's development with the Nets.
Yeah.
And OKC has a lot of young guys who we can work that same magic with, man. And I think that's a really good fit. So yeah, that's my pick.
For me, I was kind of thinking out of the box. Maybe like a Sam Cassell, a point guard in the NBA, a rather successful one, has that experience on Doc Rivers' roster. He would be a new coach you can hand the reins to, and he would help this young team grow. And also I wanted Kenny Atkinson because of what he did in Brooklyn. That was just a tremendous job. That team gave the Charlotte Hornets hell every year. They came prepared to play every game.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I was just gonna say more of the same thing, man. And I just think he may be a better fit with the smaller market because you have a Brooklyn Nets team who has an owner who just loves to make splashes. This is the same owner who signed an over the hill Kevin Garnett, Joe Johnson, and Darren Williams. So I just don't think Kenny Atkinson was a good fit in that regard. OKC, a little more sensible. They like to make good basketball decisions. They're not out to just simply make splashes and to simply make noise. They just want to pick the right guy. And Kenny Atkinson just may be the right guy for that particular program, for that particular franchise.
Gotcha.
OKC has been kind of an enigma for me. A lot of people forget they used to be the Supersonics. Mm-hmm. And when were the Supersonics? Were they ever bad?
Not really, no.
Not really.
A very short period in which somehow Richard Cho was able to help draft Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden.
And Ibaka too.
That's absolutely crazy. But they drafted Kevin Durant when they were still in Seattle. And then they come to OKC and they're like instantly good, even making it to the finals in 2012. And even though that team has been broken up for some time, but to be a perennial playoff team in the Western Conference is absolutely incredible. It is just, they are so underrated. And when Russell Westbrook left, I think a lot of people thought, okay, all right, so now comes the rebuild. Yeah. I have Chris Paul, who shows he's not as washed up as people think that he is. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a great sophomore season. They got Steven Adams in the middle. Clearly, the rebuild wasn't last year. However, having said that, I think they're going to lose some presence in the middle. Nerlens Noel, his contract's up. I don't see. At
this point, you don't have a coach,
right?
To me, that's the ultimate pivot when you don't have a coach, and you look online today. There's rumors of Chris Paul being on the block already.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, I think Chris Paul is going to stick around.
Guys, what do you do with Chris Paul? Like, I read a rumor today that basically they prefer not to trade him to a losing team. So with that being said, what are some of the packages that you're actually looking for from teams at this point for Chris Paul?
Look, listen, as much as I hate to help the Los Angeles Lakers in any way, shape, or form, I feel like you may get the most assets back from the Lakers. You can package Chris Paul for whatever first round pick that the Lakers even have left at this point, and Kyle Kuzma, who at this point may not be a good fit for the Los Angeles Lakers. And they may not be it, but that's just something to think about if you're truly hell bent on sending Chris Paul to a contender. I have actually, and there's one more crazy kind of out of the blue thought that I've also thought about with Chris Paul. And I know people are going to look at me crazy when I say this. I've actually had a scenario where Chris Paul goes back to the Clippers because I actually think that with that roster that they have now, plus Chris Paul minus a Pat Beverly, hint, hint, wink, wink, that's a better situation for both teams. So
I think that might work though if Kawhi stays. I think
that's the only way it works. Now let me be clear about that. Yes, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say the Clippers idea is one I never thought of, and I think that roster, if you can somehow get them to gel enough to be able to beat the Denver Nuggets, the addition of Chris Paul I think would be great. But the problem with Chris Paul's contract, man, $40 million a year. Who's going to take on $40 million for the last 2 years? So really. You got to find a team that wants to do Chris Paul a favor. We're going to get you this championship or this NBA Finals appearance like as a favor. So that's the Lakers.
Right. The two LA teams and who else? Right.
I mean, looking at it, one team that to me that you can probably try to make a package deal for, you can look at Miami, man. Yeah. You can try to pry back like a Tyler Hero, somebody young like that, and just kind of match up salaries like a Iguodala.
Is although he played very well in the playoffs, admittedly, I've always been on the obvious side of the Kemba versus Dragic debate, but Goran Dragic, he played very well, even against Kemba Walker in the playoffs. But do you see him sustaining that? Who would you, would you
listen, I take Chris Paul any day of the week, man.
Any day of the week, man.
And I certainly see, I was going to say I could see OKC maybe making that move. Okay, we'll send you to the Heat. They get
and then you can also look at. I mean, I hate to say it like this, man. Milwaukee's kind of desperate. They want to do anything to entice Giannis to stay.
Okay, yeah,
right.
You can probably get a first round to pick a 2 out of them. I mean, maybe this year or next, and maybe you get a young player like a DiVincenzo or a Brown, Sterling Brown, whatever, and maybe you can kind of build some type of package around that. You maybe have to take back like a bad contract, like a Bledsoe or something like that. But that, to me, that's enough to get Milwaukee over the edge. And Chris wants to be in a position to actually play for championships, so that kind of works out for both teams. But I mean, in the long run, look, if the Knicks have the best package, I'm taking that package.
If you're OKC, though, you at some point, of course, you want talent, but there are going to be players you need. The question is, what do you do with Steven Adams? He's going to be in the last year of his contract, and he's kind of been like a linchpin for the Thunder.
You have to move him.
Yeah, exactly. You have to move him. So you really do. You want a big back, like we said earlier, Andre Roberson. They're gone. So.
But this kind of begs the question to both of you guys' point. If you're OKC, and this has been said before by actually our former general manager here in Charlotte,
Richard,
the worst thing to be in the NBA is in the middle of the pack, so to speak.
Yeah.
OKC is middling. They're a young team. They're entertaining. They have pieces. Let's be clear about that. But as it stands right now, they are a middling team. So the decision with Steven Adams becomes much more complicated. Not only just Steven Adams, but Danilo Gallinari as well. Mm-hmm. Danilo Gallinari, who's a veteran in this league, who's an excellent shooter, that has some longevity. I'm sure at some point he wants to go to a contender as well. I'm sure he doesn't want to stay on a middling team. Now, that is important because if you're talking about packaging Chris Paul, there's a likelihood that you're probably going to have to send something else as well. Danilo Gallinari, in my opinion, is probably the perfect piece to send along with Chris Paul somewhere else to get whatever you want back.
See, Jamal, but here's the problem. Danilo's a free agent. And so basically the market right now it's so uncertain. We don't know what the salary cap number is going to be in the future. So we may have to actually help out Danilo in this point and try to facilitate a sign and trade.
Which is what I was getting to, but go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, you go ahead.
But herein lies the problem with that, man. Danilo Gallinari has, his contract last year was $22 million. Don't know if he commands that kind of money in the free agent market this year, but I don't think it's far off. So this gets more complicated as it goes along.
So let me ask you a question. Looking at our young guys, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander the future of the team? Is he a future superstar, or does he project to be a good Robin in the future? Like, do you need to go ahead? Do you need to go ahead and try to build around him, or try to add that guy? You understand what I'm saying?
I will not answer your question directly. I'll answer it this way: you give him a second contract, most certainly. You most certainly give him a second contract, but we have to ask ourselves just your same question, basically. Is he going to command first team all-star type of money? Is he a max guy? That's the decision you ultimately want to make. To me, no. I see him more of a second Robin type of guy. Now, this, we don't have crystal balls. We don't know what future draft picks are going to look like or future free agents. We don't know where the Batman is going to come from, so to speak. The team we'll talk about in a few minutes has the same problem, but again, I signed to a second contract, and I go look for my Batman, basically.
Gotcha. What about you, Kaza?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you treat him like like our home team treated Kemba at the end of his rookie. They gave him a kind of like, okay, let's see how good you really are deal. And essentially they underpaid him. And although when it came time to pay him, they didn't. But that ended up working out for everyone. And I think OKC has to do a similar move. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, clearly he's talented. He's got a lot of good potential. And he's been thrust into a position of leadership. Or he will be, rather, when Chris Paul leaves. I think we're all pretty certain on that. So he's going to really have a chance to really show what he's worth. And I think at the end of his contract, you don't give him max or anything close to it, but you make him a good deal. You make him an offer right around at his market value. I don't know if he's going to be a RFA.
He'll be an RFA.
Okay, so
yeah, couple years, about 2 years from now.
So you pretty much match whatever the market is for him. Other teams are going to want him.
Absolutely.
So you just kind of like how Utah did with Gordon Hayward back a few years ago. Same kind of thing. You look and see what the market is. You match it. You keep him around, and then when he's a UFA, then you reevaluate. But I don't think he'll be like an All NBA, player. Maybe All-Star, like maybe not a starter kind of guy. Okay, see, they certainly need a guy to be the man, especially in the Western Conference playoffs. We saw the reason Utah and Denver were competitive despite not having superstar talent is because they had guys who were like, okay, I'm gonna step up and be the man.
Right.
Okay, guys. So speaking of being the man, OKC, thanks to the Clippers and the Miami Heat, they have a treasure trove of picks. So I'm going to read this out to you. So 2020, they have their pick, Denver's pick. 2021, they have a swap with Houston and Miami. So they basically have a swap, but they have their pick and Miami's pick. 2022, they have OKC's and the Clippers, their own pick. 2023, they have 2 picks again in the first round. Same in 2024. 2025, they have 1 pick. And in 2026, they have 3 first-round picks. Wow. Crazy. So thinking out, just kind of thinking ahead, who are some of the targets that they can target with those treasure trove of picks? And I'm going to estimate that they will have some cap space as well.
That's tough to say, man, because the first thing that I thought about when you were reading off all those picks is how much value do those picks have? Because all those picks are from good teams. So, those picks are going to be, the 20th and the 25th and the 30th pick and what have you. Now, not to say that you can't find value in those picks. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, the chances of doing that become a lot lower than being in the lottery, so to speak. This reminds me of a Boston Celtics situation. You know what I mean? Like when they offered the Hornets all those picks, we turned it down and we basically said we don't see the value in those 47 first round picks that you offered us. As far as what type of player they can go after, man, I mean, I could see a good second guy. I could see someone like a Gordon Hayward or something like
I'm thinking someone like a Towns.
Somebody like that, man. So I don't see any like a first team guy being attracted, with us getting that back with all those picks, but maybe somebody like those 2 players.
So I'm kind of torn because in 2020 and 2024, I can actually see Houston and the Clippers being pretty bad.
I can see the Rockets being bad by that time.
I can see the Clippers too, man. I mean, Paul George and Kawhi have the ability to opt out next year if it doesn't go well, and it went to hell this past year.
But
so
now
I'm not high on that outlook from the Clippers.
I'm gonna counter your question with the question. Let's say, for argument's sake, the Clippers and the Rockets are bad, and those picks are high.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just keep them? And that depends on a lot. That depends on how strong the draft is, where those picks are. what stage are we going to be at that point? Are we going to still be rebuilding at that point? Are we in win now mode at that point? A lot depends on all of those. A lot of factors.
I mean, for the exercise, we're doing the 5-year plan. So the goal is not to be the Sacramento Kings. I mean, eventually you have to capitalize on these picks. You can't be Danny Ainge and try to wheel in and try to get over on people all the time. Eventually, you're going to have to cash in these picks. You can't play the middle and the back end forever because Oklahoma's a good market. Oklahoma City is a good market, but Oklahoma City ain't a big market, and I don't know how long those fans stay interested in a losing situation. I mean, to me, it's kind of a delicate situation.
Right.
You guys know how I feel about picks. I feel like they're generally worthless. Like literally, from a statistical analytics standpoint, draft picks themselves are worthless unless your team is 100% devoid of talent, or the draft is projected to be really, really strong. But otherwise, picks, and especially in the range that we're talking, generally worthless. Now, so the question is, do we have already enough talent to start wheeling and dealing picks, essentially? And I'm not sure if that's the case. I like Jamal said, why not just keep them? Because no team really is going to. Very rarely in the NBA do teams get finessed by picks. The Boston Celtics up to their old tricks again. I don't know if you guys saw the report a few days ago. They're offering 4 first-round picks. Nobody wants those because players are valuable because they're known
commodity.
Exactly. Get from a player with a pick, it might not be anything. And so, if it's not a lottery pick, or in the case of this draft, if it's not a top 3 pick, it's, it might as well be the number 15 pick. So I kind of think we should sit on these picks unless a team comes to us. See, if a team like Minnesota comes to us, but like I said, picks are only valuable to teams that are devoid of talent. And who in the NBA is really devoid of talent to a point where they would want to deal with us? I mean, do we really want to deal with teams that are also devoid of talent?
Right. Because then it becomes trash for trash.
Exactly.
You know what I
mean? But you got to be, to me, you got to be proactive. Like, you got to be able to identify that distressed asset. Like, I'm going to go back in time. Like, Utah. If you remember, Darren Williams was traded from Utah to Brooklyn. Nobody really knew that trade was going down, but there were rumblings in the background that he was unhappy in Utah. So the Nets had they had that young piece, the Trevor Trova picks, and they shipped it out. I mean, it was a good trade for them. So you have to be able to kind of realize that distressed asset. I'm gonna give you an example, like Devin Booker. 2021, that draft has been rumored to be the double draft with high school and college prospects. So the talent pool will naturally be deeper. Say Phoenix is 12th in the Western Conference again next year. Devin Booker's like, I don't know if I want to sign this extension, or I'm unhappy here. Mm-hmm. You actually have the pieces. You have a young piece like a Darius Baisley, a couple of first round picks, a Dirks, a Dennis Schroeder on the roster to offer Phoenix as filler, plus at least 3 or 4 of those first round picks. So I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, but I mean, at some point you got to cash in on those picks.
Well, I think at some point you're not going to have a choice because in the situation of Devin Booker or someone like a Devin Booker leaving, that doesn't give you a lot of choice, man, because, again, if we're in that seat, we don't want another Kemba Walker situation again. So
we don't want
get something back, anything you can get back. So
you brought up an interesting name, Dennis Schroeder. The guy was an all-star a few years ago, not a terrible player by any means. Super solid starter level NBA guard. He will, he's making $15 million.
Affordable.
Yeah, well, next season is his last season on the books. What do you do with him? Do you just let him go, or do you try and keep him? Because sometimes teams need a solid piece like him.
Yeah.
Look, honestly, man, I give a call to somebody like a Minnesota. Hey, Dennis Schroeder is expiring. You have this first round pick. We're not talking number one. You got the 17th pick in the draft. James Johnson is expiring too. He's making around $14-15 million a year. So how about this? You need a point guard, another point guard on this team. Hey, let's make this deal. It works out for both of us. We get a first round pick. We get a guy who's expiring, who'll be a locker room presence as a leader, James Johnson, and who eventually we can buy out. But also we get this most coveted first round pick. You got to think. You got to think like that.
I think we could use Schroeder. I mean, the guy averaged 19 points a game last season for $15 million.
Right.
To put that in perspective, the Charlotte Hornets paid, $18 million for Terry Rozier to get
17 a game.
Yeah, to get 17 a game. Although some Hornets fans are very happy with the way the Rozier deal turned out. We'll talk about that. But yeah, Dennis Schroeder clearly is capable of scoring points in the NBA despite being a smallish kind of guard. I think he would be probably more valuable to other teams, I think, than he would in a future development scenario with us at OKC.
And another thing with OKC to me is you have to find out, okay, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a primary ball handler or secondary ball handler?
I'm glad you said that.
Can he handle the team himself?
I'm glad you said that because I think we're all in agreement and we're all assuming Chris Paul's not on this roster this upcoming season. So with that being said, I don't move Dennis Schroeder this year. I think he stays put, and I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as an off guard. I worry if it's me, I worry about the Dennis Schroeder situation next season when he has an expiring deal, and you may have even more flexibility to get even something better back. Because I don't know how much value I put into that number 17 pick. You know what I mean? So I wait till next year if it's me.
I mean, I'm trying to bottom out at this point. Okay,
all right. Now we're talking.
Next year is the draft. I need to find out these critical things next year. Like, look, Shai, are you the guy, or do I have to find that guy and have you as the piece to put around that guy? Or do I just need to get rid of you? And then, next year is a way better draft than this draft. And, look, I mean, no offense to the teams now. Look, top 5 pick in this draft, next year, that's where you want to be.
Okay, now we're talking. Now, see, look. Now, if we're trying to bottom out, then hell yeah, I get rid of Dennis Schroeder with the quickness, and I do that deal in the heartbeat. First things first, you got to have a direction. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I made mention of the OKC Thunder being kind of a middle of the road team. So if we're throwing that middle of the road concept out the window, we're letting Danilo Gallinari walk. We're trading Chris Paul. We're letting Steven Adams walk. So at that point, we have no choice but to let SGA be the guy at least this season. So, and I'll say this, man, even with that being said, if we bottom out, we trade Steven Adams, Danilo Gallinari walks, and ultimately SGA is the piece we have on this team could probably still overachieve a little bit. They may be a 9th or 10th seed, and they could end up like our beloved Charlotte Hornets and still be with the high draft pick next year. So that way it works out. But here's what we want to avoid.
We want to avoid having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then nobody else. Because looking at contracts, and that's what it looks like is going to happen. Chris Paul is probably going to leave. Dennis Schroeder, especially if he has another 19 points a game season next season,
he'll be going by the deadline.
Exactly. We're not going. Certainly not going to be keeping for 15 mil. Gallinari's probably gone. Nerlens Noel is gone. Steven Adams gone. So I mean, who does that leave?
So basically, at this point, you have a Hamidou Diallo, Darius Baisley, who looked pretty good in the playoffs, a young big, Dort was pretty good, and then you have Terrence Ferguson. I mean, that's your young core, and quite honestly, that's not that impressive. So
four players on the roster will be, or five will be in their second season.
Yeah,
that's almost 45% of the roster right there. That's going to be, to me, that's that can either go one or two ways.
Yeah.
So now we have to decide. I don't want to use the T word, but if you got Shea.
So you're trying to get your Sam Hinkie on.
No, you don't have to use the T word. You can use the R word, which is retool. We can retool this team.
Because all right, so let's say you got Shea and a bunch of guys who aren't as good. We'll leave it at that. That could put you in a pretty position for, like you said, for the 2021 draft, in which we could bring in a high level draft pick to complement him, and then we got our Batman and Robin, and then that might OKC. One of the good things about the Thunder is that we have a little bit of prestige, just a little bit. We've got a little bit that we carried over from the Supersonic days, and teams are not adverse to coming to play here in Oklahoma City, shockingly, somehow. Players are not adverse to come here. So you got Shea. We draft a really, high projected draft pick prospect. After that, we've got a bunch of, because we got rid of Chris Paul and Steven Adams. We could possibly look at that point bringing in a free agent, and then we've got our big three, and then we're only out of playoff contention for
about 2-3 years,
2 seasons. So maybe the best thing to do is let it be Shea and a bunch of guys.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to take the Miami Heat approach. They find diamonds in the rough all the time. Who the hell knew who Duncan Robinson was last year? I mean, you just got to take shots on people at this point. So we're going to transition to our beloved losers, the Charlotte Hornets. James Borrego is our coach. Mitch Kupchak is our GM, and we're assistant GMs. So, guys,
trade everybody.
Important question. Who do we choose third in the draft? And do we make a call to Minnesota or Golden State to try to move up? Kaiser?
So, after watching some tape this past weekend, you guys know I've been on the LaMelo Ball train since day one. I feel like mainly he's the highest risk, but the highest reward of the projected top 3, top 4 guys. I think him playing in the NBL in Australia is huge. And I know like that he only played a season there.
Yeah.
And there's some debate about how good the NBL is, but that's a pro league. He played with grown dudes for a year overseas. That kind of experience cannot be discounted. However, Anthony Edwards.
Hey, I knew it was coming.
Really good basketball player. Wow, he was a really good basketball player. And at this point, we maybe need to call Minnesota or Golden State and see if we can put our position. I know the fans want James Wiseman because he's plug and play. You draft him, he starts opening night. He starts with Miles, PJ, Terry, and Devontae, and there's no shakeup. And fans like that. And to be fair, Wiseman, athletic, he's a natural 7-footer. He can do things normal 7-footers can't do. But man, have y'all seen Anthony Edwards play? I mean, he can do it all. And if he's as good as you think that he could possibly be, I don't even really care about the Devontae Terry Rozier situation. One of y'all sitting on the bench. It's as simple as that. One of y'all on the bench.
So Jamal.
Yeah.
Jamal. So I'm Minnesota. And basically, I've decided if I don't get an enticing offer with this first pick, I'm picking your guy, Anthony Edwards. What would you offer to me to move up?
How about whatever the hell you want? How about that?
I don't know about that, man.
I've been on the Anthony Edwards train probably for about maybe 1 or 2 months now. I was like Kaiser was. I was on the LaMelo Ball train, but after seeing film on Anthony Edwards, man, that's the guy, man. And I'm stepping out of GMO, and I'm going to talk to you as a fan real quickly. I was just crossing my fingers and hoping to God that the Timberwolves just would not pass up on LaMelo Ball, because that just leaves, I think that would just be a shoe-in for us to get Edwards at that point at 3. But back to your question as a GM, what do I offer Minnesota? I offer Terry Rozier. I offer I try my best not to give them a first-round pick, but, we'll see exactly what they want first in regards to a pick is concerned. I give them Nick Batum's expiring contract, obviously, and I'll take back one of theirs. Something to that effect, man.
So look, Carl, I'm Rosas from Minnesota. So Carl Anthony Towns wants to win now. I made a move for D'Angelo Russell. Look, Terry Rozier is cool. I do not want your Nick Batum. Look, I want a 2023 first.
You can have Malik Monk. How's that? So you got, the writing may be on the wall with Monk.
Kaza, let me interrupt you. If Anthony Edwards is at stake, Malik Monk, it's definitely on the wall with Malik Monk.
Absolutely, that's what I really think. Here's the thing: Golden State is the wild card in all this because they don't need their pick, and they're going to play it very, very close to the vest.
Absolutely.
About what they're going to do. We've heard reports from all 3 of the major prospects. Well, we think Golden State might want LaMelo Ball. We know they don't want LaMelo Ball. Oh, they might want James Wiseman. They might want Anthony Edwards. They might want this dude from Europe. They're kind of the wild card, and I don't think we should deal with them because they'll fleece us.
Right. Absolutely.
I think you go after Minnesota, and I actually think the Timberwolves, Monk and Rozier would be a very good fit on that team, actually, I think. And I like Terry Rozier a lot. I am not mad at the Hornets for making that deal. He's not Kemba, but we weren't expecting him to be, and he's a lot better than a lot of fans who will remain nameless thought he was going to be. A lot of people thought he was going to come and give us 8 points a game, and he ended up maybe being the best player on the roster last season. I don't know if he will carry that into this season because you would expect Graham, PJ to get better. But having said that, for a guy like Anthony Edwards, I feel like there's more potential there.
Gotcha.
I feel like Wiseman is he's the safe pick. Haven't we always derided our team for making the safe pick?
Yeah. Right.
Isn't that what James Wiseman is? He would be the safe pick. So our choices are a 6'7", 6'8", facilitating, do everything guard, or a 6'6", 6'7" guy who can flat out score and has great athleticism on both sides of the court. I like that potential on
a whole lot better.
And I really think you do. I think we gotta talk to Minnesota.
Gotcha. And I got a question for you guys. So Dwayne Bacon is a free agent. Would you bring him back next year?
No, especially if somehow, some way Anthony Edwards ends up on his team. There's no room for him at that point. He already fell out the rotation. With Monk playing well towards the end of the season. The Martin twins pretty much took Bacon's minutes, midway through the season. There's no room for him. There's just not. And on top of that, there's rumblings of him not necessarily being the best fit in the locker room. So at this point, you just cut your losses and you say, "Hey, man, wish you the best of luck."
Yeah, he had his chance. he had more of a chance than a lot of players in the NBA could ever wish for. Essentially, James Borrego, and here's the thing about what people don't understand about a guy like JB. He puts his neck on the line every time he makes a decision like that, because we know that Michael Jordan will hook you, if you're not up to snuff. So he gave Wayne Bacon a chance, and he could not capitalize for whatever reason. There could be a lot of reasons why Bacon fizzled out after being given that opportunity, but he just didn't live up to it. And so it's time for the next guy. Yeah, you may have learned your lesson. You may be better, but we're trying to build a contender here. So,
okay. So the Albatross, this is the last year of the Albatross. We have Nick Batum on the roster. Do we just kind of ride this thing out, or do we look for a deal where we take on additional money for maybe draft compensation to maybe a team that's trying to kind of cut salary? I mean, what do we do with Nick Batum? And then also Cody Zeller, this is his last year. What do we do with Mr. Zeller? To me, people will be interested in him, but they're questioning his health history. What do you guys do with those two gentlemen?
With Nick Batum in particular, now we all know we may not have a choice with Nick Batum. We just may be stuck with the guy, and it's only one more season, so just be patient, Hornets fans. Now, as far you always have to look for a deal. You always have to be on the phone with teams, dangling that expiring contract. Like you said, Rodney, for draft compensation. I'm going to throw y'all a curveball, and this is something Bleacher Report brought up today. I usually hate Bleacher Report's trade scenarios and suggestions, but this one caught my eye today. It was something to the effect of Nick Batum going to, I believe, Milwaukee, and Andrew Wiggins actually ending up on the Charlotte Hornets, and us giving up a second round pick. And I wish I had this trade scenario so I could read y'all the exact thing. But if something like that presents itself, I take it all day, man. I really do. And I know, but and the thing is, Rodney, to give up an Albatross, you're going to have to take back an Albatross. And at least you have some talent in something like an Andrew Wiggins, if that's the Albatross you take back. Keep this in mind. Before I'm going to let you go, keep this in mind. This particular trade scenario, which I wish I had the details, this trade scenario had us moving up to the number 2 pick. Let me make sure I make that clear as well.
You guys remember 2 years ago when we traded for Timothy Mozgov, and everyone, what is Mitch doing? How many minutes did he play? How many minutes did he play that season? He
didn't make it to the gym. Yeah, he didn't make it to the gym.
I think Mitch is going to pull off something similar. Batum will be gone. We're going to get, I don't know, Tristan Thompson, somebody like that.
He's a free agent, actually.
That's right. He is a free agent. Batum can be whatever. If we could get even this much, a pack of bubble gum.
Thank you.
A box of Tide because I'm low.
Hey, Kaiser, Rodney, I'm going to give y'all a simple math equation. All right. What do you get when you replace nothing with something? You get something. Nick Batum has given us nothing. So if you get back an Albatross that can give you anything, it's a win for you. Right. So you always got to be looking for a deal, man.
So I got a question for you guys. So I got a very important question. Long-term outlook. We didn't expect PJ Washington to be this good this early. Mitch said that he maybe spending some time in Greensboro before last season started, which kind of alarmed a lot of us. First game out, scores 27 a game. 27 that first game. Miles Bridges, up and down first 2 years. His best position to me is the power forward. PJ plays power forward. What do you do there? Who do you keep long term? Do you keep experiencing Miles at the 3?
This narrative with Hornets fans that PJ and Miles are the same player,
which I don't agree with.
Yes, I do not agree with that. They are different. Miles is more athletic than PJ Washington. Although PJ Washington is pretty athletic, but Miles is Yes. Danny says don't trade Batum.
We're not gonna have a choice, but yeah.
So I think you could make that work, but I think Miles might have the shortest leash. I think we saw a little bit more out of PJ his rookie season than we saw out of Miles his rookie season.
Right.
Although Miles took a big step last season, especially near the end of the season. He just needs to work on his consistency. That's his big issue. We saw some flashes from him, and then he would struggle to get in a groove the next game. PJ was more consistent. He wasn't, he didn't have the huge spikes except for the very beginning of the season, but he was generally more consistent. So I think you find a way to make that work. Also, I want to talk real quick about Cody Zeller. I think you find a way to bring him back for about what he makes now and keep him in a backup role.
Simply, I'm 100% with you on Cody Zeller, and because our center situation, I'm not gonna say it's complicated, but we just have too many centers on the roster, and that could even be even more complicated if we draft a guy like James Wiseman. There's no reason to have 4 centers on the roster, man. So I'm with Kaz as far as Cody goes. You just find a way to bring him back for a good deal, because a backup role is what suits him the best. And like I said, man, as far as Nick Batum goes, man, I think we're stuck with him. So
Gotcha. I got another question for you guys. So Bismack Biyombo and Willie Hernangomez are free agents. Do we make a run at them, or we just kind of let them wash away?
I'll say this, man. Willie Hernangomez had a very team-friendly deal. I don't know what he's going to command this offseason. I don't think it'll be in the neighborhood of what Bismack Biyombo made last year, and I know it shouldn't be. Yes. With that being said, Willie, we don't know who we're going to draft at this point, so that pretty much leaves the same changes that we had, from the previous season. If we're, if we go into the season with Cody Zeller and Willie Hernangomez, I think you re-sign Willie to try to re-sign him to another team-friendly deal. You try to do that first. If you can't come to, an agreement as far as what you want to pay the guy, then you let him walk, and we'll find somebody in free agency.
I mean, for me, I'm not a fan of Willie. The dude plays defense like he has construction boots on. I'm not a fan of his basketball IQ or anything like that. Honestly, I'd rather bring back Biz to be that third center, and most importantly, he's a good piece in the locker room. For a young team like this, you need that veteran presence in the locker room. Nick Batum ain't gonna cut it, whatever. But Biyombo has to be that piece to me. Also, I got a question for you as well. Say we draft Anthony Edwards. Who would you look to target to bring in as a big guy for this roster? Would you try to make a deal, or would you just look into free agency?
I look at free agency. I kind of, I echo the same sentiments that Mitch Kupchak has said as far as free agency is concerned, man. It's not like we're in a position to kind of go after the big fish anyway. At this point, a serviceable big man, it's someone who's a rim defender and a better rebounder and better rebounders than what we have now is who I go after. I don't have any exact names off this point. I have to pull up the free agent list, but I try to find a serviceable big man in free agency.
Honestly, I look at somebody like you're gonna hate me for saying this, like a Tristan Thompson.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
He's gonna rebound the ball, play solid defense, not a high maintenance guy, and will just bring that energy every night. He may want to team up with LeBron, but I mean, at this point, you have more money than the Lakers. Hey, offer him $12 million a year. I mean, does he really say no? $12 million in the starting role?
He shouldn't say no.
What about you, Kaiser? Like, the question I asked was, okay, say you draft Anthony Edwards, and you need a big guy now. Willie's gone. Zeller's not an ideal starter anywhere at this point. He's a serviceable backup. Who would you bring in as a big guy, free agent wise? Or would you make a trade for one?
That's tough. I mean, the Hornets we're probably going to use up all of our trade capital around the draft.
Yeah.
That's the plan. So really, we've got to look at free agency. Danny Thompson says keep Biz. Biz makes a lot of money though.
He's a free agent.
Is he? He's a UFA this season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to go back. You were going.
I'll be honest. I think
I would keep him for a locker room presence.
Fans are going to hate to hear this, but I think you make Willie and Cody work. You make that work mainly because
I said the same thing when you're going, bro.
What else you gonna do? I mean, a guy like Tristan Thompson is serviceable, but is he really that much better than a developing Hernan Gomez or
yeah.
Well, he might be, but is he good enough to have to make deals and sign a new contract?
Wait. Time out. Are we still calling Bismack Biyombo developing at this point?
I said Hernan Gomez.
Okay.
I mean, look, man. Hernan Gomez is like 26. I think Buddy's developed. I mean,
I just don't. I mean,
he looks like on defense. He looks like end of career Kendrick Perkins. Like
the 5 position in the NBA is not as important.
True.
As it's been maybe ever. So if you have someone that can rebound the ball, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Guys, hey, real quick, Rodney, there's a hot name out there that's, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I want to throw it out there. Montrezl Harrell is a free agent. What do you think about Montrezl Harrell? What kind of deal do you offer him?
I like Trez, but my thing is, he will make us extremely small. He's only 6'7".
Right.
EJ's 6'7", 6'6". Miles is 6'6". I mean, and then you're starting Terry and Devontae. Anthony Edwards would be a big 2, but he will make you extremely small. I was just looking at the free agent list. I'm gonna throw a name out there to you. He's a little older. He's 31, but I think he might be a good fit. Serge Ibaka.
I actually love Serge Ibaka on his team. I'm 150% on that train. If a deal like that can be had, veteran presence, he can stretch the floor. Good interior defender, man. Veteran presence in the locker room. To me, there's nothing to not like about Serge Ibaka being on this roster for a good deal. I'm with it 100%.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing about sometimes it's hard for players to realize they may not be worth
that guy anymore.
Yeah, what he was. And Serge Ibaka made $20+ million last season. So he's going to look for a deal close to that, and he's going to wait until the market settles. And either teams are going to say, "No, you're not worth that, bro," or someone's going to overpay him. We don't want to be the guys that overpay.
Yeah.
Because God knows that has got us in this mess that we're in now, is overpaying the wrong guys. So
exactly. I love Serge Ibaka. All right, hold on. I got one for you. Y'all gonna want to fight me over this. What if we bring Dwight Howard back? Okay, hear me out.
No.
Hear me out. He's a different Dwight Howard than he was 2 seasons
ago. But is he? That's the question.
Dwight Howard that came here and played with Kemba wanted to cross dudes up and shoot threes and all kinds of crazy stuff. That Dwight Howard is gone. I think he learned a lot playing with LeBron. We saw what did he do for LA in the playoffs and particularly the finals?
He got played off the floor a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, against younger guys, I mean, we just need someone to get rebounds and just stand in the paint.
Dude, look.
Dwight Howard don't do that. And he's going to be the issue with Dwight Howard before was that he was making $25 million. Now,
look. There are reports that they got rid of Dwight Howard because they perceived him as a negative influence on Monk. I don't know if that's true or not. And then Dwight and Mitch Kupchak don't have a great history.
Okay, so
Kaiser, let me answer that real quick. I'm gonna just say one thing. Egos rarely go anywhere.
That's true.
I have yet to see a professional athlete's ego ever really leave him before or after their career. And I don't think Dwight Howard is gonna. I just don't think he changes as becomes a man, especially now that he has a ring. Now that this guy has a ring, and he's gonna come on the Charlotte Hornets
look, he has a ring and Tia Cooper.
We didn't see that from him in LA this past season. It's like he knew, because remember, Dwight Howard essentially had taken a season off to get butt surgery done. I mean, that's what it was. So, and when you're a player and you have to get butt surgery, you don't know where your career goes from there. You're like, this might be it for me. So he gets picked up by LA and actually helps them. So, I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't have won the championship without him, but hey, he was like more than serviceable.
Yeah, but there's one really big difference about LA. They have a guy named LeBron James.
Right.
But we have Terry Rozier.
That's true. I don't think Dwight was going. I think honestly, when he came to Charlotte, he thought he was the best player in the team. He thought that was,
which was the problem. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
I really think he honestly believed that he was the best. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer. And he probably feels like he's always the same Dwight Howard that carried Orlando to the finals.
Which is exactly why I don't want him anywhere near here again, man.
Okay, all right.
All right, one more name.
I have a long-term question.
Okay.
So, is James Borrego the guy to get us consistently in the top 4 in the playoffs?
All right, this is going to be a fluid question. This is going to be an ongoing assessment. Right now on this date in 2020, he absolutely is, because the trajectory of where we are now versus where he started, I like the trajectory. Again, this is fluid because we all know how quickly things can change in this league. So it's never going to be yes and no going forward. Right now, yes, I like his young energy. I like the fact that he's a young guy, coaching young guys, and this whole entire franchise is so big on player development right now, which I think he's done a good job of right now. So the running assessment, it'll be a running assessment, but today, as of this date, yes.
Got you, Kaza.
Yeah, I think coaches are always going to be polarizing to fans. They just are, especially when you have a lot of named coaches out there that don't have jobs. A lot of fans want to see those named coaches and
they don't have jobs for a reason, but right, I digress.
Exactly. Those people do not have jobs for a reason. Fans like names. They would. Most fans would probably love it if Dwight Howard came back, because it's like, oh, we got Dwight, we got D. Howard back. He would just won a championship. So
I'm gonna get Carmelo.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone wanted Carmelo because he was a name. So I think coaches are kind of the same thing. When I look at James Borrego, I see something that we see in the new NBA, and this is probably why Brooklyn decided to go to Steve Nash. Younger guys and former players tend to be more dynamic in their decision making. They're not rigid. Steve Clifford was very, very rigid in his decision making. He never changed rotations. He would ride a rotation all the way down to the triple digits of the box plus minus. He did not care. You knew what his lineup was going to be. You knew what his lineups were going to be. Whereas Borrego, we saw him give Dwayne Bacon a chance, and we saw him give Malik Monk a chance. We saw him play with Miles at the 2 and the 4.
We've seen him put PJ at center before. We've seen him do some crazy experimental things before.
And the thing is people, some fans got mad at that, but that's how you know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Right.
Coaches that are rigid, that's why those coaches tend to not have sustained success. So I think JB willing to experiment and find out, hey, how can I get the best out of this player's ability? What does this guy do, and how can I get the most out of it? That's something we haven't had in a coach in Charlotte in a long time, if ever. And I think you at least give them 2 more seasons to make the playoffs.
Okay. So our trajectory. We got a lottery pick, obviously, this year. Next year, I'm going to predict we're going to be in the lottery again. So, what do we do in the summer 2021? Do we go after some high level free agents to go for it, or do we continue building with our young core at that point?
If you have the money, go ahead and try to spend it, because the danger in not doing so is you're going to end up overpaying the wrong guys again. 2020 is the free agent list is a lot better than it is this year. We're going to be 1 season older. Hopefully that means that the guys that we're trying to develop are 1 season better. I hope at that point Devontae Graham it becomes someone that free agents looks at and says, you know what, I really wouldn't mind playing with that guy down in Charlotte. So if we're in that scenario where our developing pieces are attractive at that point, you got to go ahead and try to make a splash. And
that's how mid-market teams become successful. You develop your pieces, and then you have a guy, a superstar or star player who says, you know what, they need me.
Yep.
They need me, and let's make it happen. That's what really we need to focus on. I don't think we'll be a lottery team next year, though.
I wouldn't, and I was going to say I wouldn't be so quick to say that, man. Look, it wouldn't surprise me. Don't get me wrong, but I also wouldn't be so quick to say I'm just not certain we'll be a lottery team next year.
I mean, if we're a lottery team next year, that means we bombed on the pick.
No, I mean, listen. Let's look at the actual rosters. I mean, let's look at the actual Eastern Conference. The Nets will be better. The 76ers, they got a better coach. They also got.
They'll be the same.
They got a new GM, so he's looking to trade too. You got the Celtics who'll be back. Last I checked, Giannis ain't going nowhere.
Nope.
Miami ain't going nowhere.
Yep.
The Bulls have a better coach now.
So here's the thing. I know where you're getting at, but I'm not sold that Chicago, Orlando, and New York
Washington
are that much better than we are.
I agree. I agree with.
Orlando was barely better than us. I mean, barely better than us. And they're not a terrible bad team at all. I think if we hit on this pick, we're right in the mix from 7, 8, 9. We're right
and also keep in mind, man, there are 2 wild cards with Indiana and Washington, and those are Bradley Beal and Victor Oladipo, who have been rumored to not be with those said teams coming this season. So that's also a wild card as well, man. So with that being said, next season, you got to, no pun intended, man. We got to shoot our shot next season.
Hey, I hate to say this, man. The Hawks are coming.
I agree. They're a good young team, man.
I mean, you think about this. They missed their big man for Collins for about 25 games at the beginning of the year. Now they got Clint Capella and Collins.
It comes out of this.
With Trey.
We have to hit on the pick.
We do.
We need a guy who is as impactful as Trae Young, because even if the Hawks are bad, people are going to say, well, they got Trae Young, and then he's going to attract guys like Clint Capella to the team, and that's how they're going to get better. That's how we're going to have to get better. We're going to either Devontae, PJ, Miles, or whoever we draft at number 3, they're going to have to be so impactful over the next season or so that, star players start looking at coming.
Okay, fellas, I have a takeaway question. So recently I was reading an article, the top 5 NBA teams with the worst outlook. Of course, we're like number 3 or 2.
Of course.
So finally, in your opinion, what do we need to get off that list? What do we need to do to get off that list?
Man, that's a trick question. And I'm going to tell you why, man. It's a trick question because we're the Charlotte Hornets. And I don't agree with us having one of the worst outlooks. Let me be very clear about that. So to get off these nationally publications list, we got to get a star. It's as simple as that. When you get a star, the whole outlook, your whole trajectory, everything changes within the blink of an eye, which is why I don't like these outlook lists to begin with, because they are fluid and they can change so quickly. If we look up and we get Anthony Edwards and he is the next Dwayne Wade, like we all hope he is, we're not even on that list next year. You get what I'm saying? So the simple answer is just get a star. Yeah. That's it.
You have to hit on a pick or sneak into the playoffs and be competitive. You can't, if we sneak into an 8 seed and then we get like rolled by Giannis or Kemba or, something like that, then it's the Hornets. Respect. But if we sneak into like a 7 seed and we can take a team to 6 or 7 games, we were in a real good place a few years ago when we took Miami to 7 games. Actually, they took us to 7 games and beat us. We should have won that series.
One game 6.
And we weren't on any bad outlook list then. And then the wheels fell off that train. So the Hornets have to get back to that position where we can be competitive with teams that are a little more talented than us. But people, I think, write that stuff about teams like the Hornets as filler because they don't know. These guys don't know anything. To say the Charlotte Hornets have one of the 5 worst outlooks in the NBA is just flat out wrong. It is flat out incorrect. It's clear that person is ignorant of Charlotte Hornets basketball. They just look.
And look, I have said this ad nauseum, and I don't mean to digress too much right now. I promise I won't be long-winded about this. But every time these damn outlooks come out, I always ask the question, man, why is it that teams like the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, the Minnesota Timberwolves, teams who have gone a full damn decade without even making the Knicks, without even making the playoffs, why is it that they're rarely in worse outlook positions than the Charlotte Hornets? So
they have that young talent. They have that
young talent that never gets them anywhere, right?
Yeah, young talent. Here's the thing: the Phoenix Suns have Devin Booker, who is probably better than anyone on our current roster, but they're not any better than the Charlotte Hornets. So
that's my point, man. But go ahead. I don't want to digress too much, man.
Anything, that's worse.
So I got a question. So finally, I'm looking at a mock draft. I actually don't mind this. So with the 3rd pick in the NBA draft, give me your reaction. The Charlotte Hornets select Onyeka Okongwu.
Let me just go ahead and close this by y'all.
Hey, look, man. Look, he reminds me a lot of my dude from Miami, Bam. He reminds me a lot of
Bam.
Yeah,
okay. Fair enough, but I don't even think Bam is worth a 3rd pick in the draft. The 3rd,
bye, Kaiser. Bye.
The 3rd pick. You think if they redraft that draft, he gets picked that high?
He probably gets picked 4th, but that draft was so deep, man. I'm telling you,
very deep.
Look, let me ask you a question, Rodney. The fan reaction is they're going to burn down Spectrum Center if that's the pick, if that's the 3rd pick. However, there are always guys, and I want y'all to really keep this in mind, man. There are always guys who are first projected to be maybe 7th, 8th, around 10th, something like that. That should always go higher than they go.
Right.
Klay Thompson was one of those picks. Bam Adebayo was one of those picks. Devin Booker was one of those picks. He may be that guy. It's an out of the box kind of thinking when it comes to picking him at 3. I just don't think it would. I definitely don't. Okay. I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. But our fans are going to riot if it happens.
And that's the thing. That's a huge gamble, high risk, high reward, very high risk.
Huge gamble. Reward. I agree with that.
If you draft him and he ends up being as good as Bam, then people will.
They gotta roll their dice.
They're gonna praise Mitch and JB. They won't praise Michael Jordan. They'll praise Mitch and JB for finding that diamond in the rough. Of course, the pop comparisons are gonna come. Man, look at what JB brought from the Spurs. They drafted Kawhi Leonard. We're gonna get all that. The problem is that if you don't draft, there's only 3 people we can realistically draft and have the city be safe the next night.
To your point, Kaiser.
Those 3 people.
Exactly. To your point, Rodney. To both of y'all's point, who do because it's a gamble. Let's be clear about that. Who do you gamble on? Do you gamble on that guy or one of the 3 guys that we projected to pick?
I gamble on him. I actually like him more than Ball. I'm not a Ball fan. I'm
off the Ball train myself. I'm off the Ball train myself, honestly, man.
That defense and his shot release, I don't like it. I'm just not a fan of it.
So I'm petty. I'm a petty GM, and I want to prove to the fans that they might not know as much as they think they do. So we draft one of those 3 guys, and if they fail, hey, these are the guys you wanted. We made it. Look what happens now. Buy season ticket.
Look. Rich Cho did that. I was in the room when we drafted Malik Monk. Everybody clapped and cheered.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Monk was a bad pick at all. He wasn't the best pick as we saw. But I don't think he was a bad pick at all.
Hey, look, man, y'all know I'm going to die on the Malik Monk sword. Y'all know I'm that guy. I still see the potential of Malik Monk. I still do.
And plus, there's a huge difference in the number 9 pick, and we're talking about the number 3 pick here.
Right.
We're talking about the number 3 pick. I think you are almost obligated to let the fans make the pick, unless you have some kind of secret knowledge that the fans don't have, because you can't outsmart yourself. We've seen GMs do that all the time. I think about Detroit and Darko back in 2003, 2004. One of the worst picks in history. They outsmarted themselves there.
Carmelo D. Wade, man. Woof.
Listen. And listen, I want to go around the proverbial room here. I think we're all in agreement that Edwards is our guy, right? Well, that's who we ultimately want to end up with, right?
Yeah.
If he's not there, who's your guy?
I'm actually happy with Wiseman. I'm happy with any of the 3 guys. Wiseman, I was the lowest on, only because I feel like college experience counts, especially when you're a big man. A lot of people, Kyrie only played 8 games or something like that. That's 8 games, not 3. And Kyrie was a highly skilled guard, which is a lot different in today's NBA. You can be undersized and have a skill level like Kyrie Irving and be successful without playing a lot of college ball. Whereas with Wiseman, we've only seen him dominate high schoolers. He played 3 pretty decent games in college.
He played against South Carolina State, man.
Yeah, against like low-tier competition. How's he going to look when he's banging with even a guy like Andre Drummond? Wiseman's like kind of he's a wiry dude. I know he's 7'1", but how's he going to look up against Anthony Davis or Andre Drummond or
baby?
That's why I'm not sold on him. Having said that, I would be happy with either of the picks. Like I said, Wiseman, you plug and play. He starts opening night. You have a very young starting lineup. You can develop LaMelo. He's kind of going to bring the little bit of star power from these top 3 picks. He's going to bring the attention and national limelight. I'm good with either.
It is worth noting that there's a report that James Wiseman said he is not interested in being drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves. So,
I don't know why they have.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
So, yeah.
I mean, I like Okonkwo. That's my guy, pick and roll guy. Rim runner, can defend.
Whoa! Did you say pick and roll? Hornets fans, no. Hornets fans told me that the pick and roll is not important. And
the most basic playing basketball is not okay.
Not important at all. So.
all right. So guys, I'm gonna recap. So Jamal, give me your answer, then we're gonna recap.
All right. As far as who I want,
yeah.
Wiseman is my consolation prize. Cause it's the best fit. I am not so sure he's the best talent available at that point. But he's most certainly the best fit, so he's my consolation prize.
Okay, so guys, to recap, we're OKC. we're in rebuild mode. We get rid of Chris Paul. We let Danilo walk. If he can't find anything, we facilitate a sign and trade. We find out if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the guy. And we just kind of figure it out with the rest of the roster, just kind of figure it out. And then we go big game hunting after a draft or two. Correct?
Correct. We're in agreement.
For the Hornets, continue to evaluate talent. JB is the guy. You give him the years. Give him that Matt Rule treatment. Where I'm going to say we'll have to make a decision between PJ and Miles. It's going to have to come down the line. We do whatever it takes to try to get Anthony Edwards.
We talk. We're definitely on the phone with the Timberwolves.
We're on the phone with the T-Wolves. We're willing to take on a bad contract plus some money to let them get free agents. And then also next year we go big game hunting with our free agent money. We keep Nick Batum. We let him expire. We keep Cody Zeller as a backup. Correct?
Correct.
Send it. Call Jordan. Call
him. Just call. That's the plan I like. Why can't we just get on the phone and say, Steph, hey, come play with us? I like that plan better. Man.
Yeah, Brady, why don't y'all come play for us together?
Right.
Y'all know there will be a point in time in Steph Curry's career where he could realistically come to the Hornets, but it'll be like
35.
Right,
yep.
Yeah. That's going to be
your age.
Right.
Yeah,
Basically, he'll be Del Curry's age. That's the worst time to be a Hornets fan or staff member, because if you don't find a way to get Steph Curry here at age 38, 39, people gonna go crazy, even though it probably wouldn't be in our best interest to even.
It doesn't have to make sense, man. Let's be clear about that.
It's gonna be, man. It's gonna
man.
Like, you know what?
Honestly, at this point, I'll take Seth.
I was hoping the Hornets would make a move for Seth Curry.
He can shoot the rock, man, just like his brother.
Yeah.
We saw that when he lit us up this season. Yeah. We definitely witnessed it.
So, but I just know when Steph's like, hey, the Bay Area was good to me, but I'm ready to look elsewhere. The form.
Man, look, he's a California boy now. But fellas, do you guys have any shout outs before we leave?
Just shout out to everybody who continues to support us through these extraordinary times, man. Just through all this COVID crap, through this Alexis stuff. You're watching us on a Zoom call, essentially, man. So that means a lot to us, man. So thank you for continuing to watch us, man. Just shout out to the fans, man.
Yeah, and shout out to everyone who voted on that point. I want to shout out the baby.
Yeah,
man. Had
a tumultuous week. He did a lot to get people in Charlotte out voting. So anything I ever said about him and his music, that's off the table now. He is an ambassador to our city.
Absolutely.
Then, to have a tragic death in his family that same week, I can't imagine what he's going through. So our thoughts are with him. He's a Charlottean through and through, and I buy all his stuff just because he's from Charlotte and he clearly has the best interest in the growth of our city. So shout out to him.
Hey, real quick story. Hey, I got a quick shout out and a really quick story. So I went to my alma mater, West Charlotte High School, to vote, and I ran into Anthony Morrow, and I actually also ran into Yandrick Parison, who was the organizer of that event that went down at West Charlotte. So Yandrick said, "Hey man, you need to stick around." And I said, "You know what, man? I got stuff to do. I'm busy today. Can't really hang around, but I like what you're doing." So I look on Facebook 10 minutes later, and one of my favorite rappers, Common, is giving essentially a free concert at West Charlotte High School. So guess who missed out on his favorite rapper at West Charlotte High School? Shout out to Common for blessing Charlotte with some good stuff this weekend as well. Also played his part in getting people out to vote, man. So shout out to Common as well.
I want to give a shout out to the people, man. Record turnout, man. Let's do this every election, midterms, every election.
People, you have more power than you think.
Like these elections matter. Things have actually changed. As far as these little jurisdictional elections, like in Georgia, for instance, the prosecutor for the Ahmaud Arbery case, she was let go. She got voted out. I mean, these things matter, man. And finally, man, count all them votes, man. Just count all them votes.
Count every last one.
Every last one of them mugs, man. Look, I'm willing to wait. Look.
So hopefully the election is over by next Friday.
Hey man, look, 20 years ago we waited 36 days. But but thank you guys for watching Under Construction, man.
Hey guys, this is fun, man. Hey, we need to do this again. This is fun, man.
We do.
Yeah, Anthony Padilla says trade Nick Batum for better presidential candidates. Awesome. A plus comment. A plus comment. Yes, sir. We will see y'all Sunday after we get boat raced by the Kansas City Chiefs, y'all. Peace.
It'll be a quick one.